Good morning. Good morning, and welcome to the best football show. I am Brian Baldinger at Baldy NFL across all social media platforms. And you can find the best football show by downloading your free Odyssey app and finding the best football show, liking it, subscribing to it, watching it. What we're in the middle of doing is just stacking my best or top 5, 6, 7 players at each position. And today, I want to talk about a position that I started for 1 year in the NFL, one out of my 12 years, and that was center. And the center position, it's actually a very good draft for centers. Probably none will go in the first round unless they convert one of these other tackles into center, which can happen all the time. In fact, if you think about that, taking a starting tackle and moving him to center, we've seen it. I mean, Matt Burke played left tackle at Alabama, played left tackle in his college career, and then transferred to center and won a Super Bowl as a starting center for Baltimore. But he was the left tackle at Harvard when he was in college. Played center his whole career, won a Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens. I think he retired after that year, 2012. Just recently, we saw Graham Barton, who was the left tackle at Duke, drafted in the first round by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They have moved him to center. He's a great, great player. Great athlete, and with good size. It's just interesting. The worst team in football last year was the Raiders, and 2 years ago they drafted Jackson Powers Johnson, a center out of Oregon, who was a really good player, good prospect. I think he was a second-round pick of the Raiders. The Raiders wouldn't even let him play center, And then you look at the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks, and there's Jalen Sundell out of North Dakota State, undrafted, starting center for Seattle, and really good player. In fact, North Dakota State produced Jalen Sundell and Gray Zabel, their starting left guard. And really, before I get into my list here, I was a guard tackle, mostly guard in my NFL career, but 1 year I was in Indianapolis, and our all-pro center, Ray Donaldson, broke his leg in the first game against the Raiders, and they moved me to center. And I started at center for the rest of the year. Jeff George was our rookie quarterback. I learned a lot about the center position by playing the position because I'm not bragging to myself, but you got to be smart. Especially if you have a young quarterback. I mean, you've got to be able to get the calls out. You've got to be able to see the blitzes. You've got to be able to do all the audible calls up front when the defense changes. And so you've got to make sure that you can let everybody hear, all right, the checks, make sure the quarterback knows. I mean, it's one of the reasons why the Raiders went out and got Tyler Linderbaum, and really reset the center market. The center market was about $18 million a year. Well, Tyler Linderbaum's getting $27 million a year. I mean, he's reset the market, because of the anticipation of Fernando Mendoza getting drafted, and they needed somebody at the center position to really help him out, help with the blitzes, help with the calls, all those kind of things. Because here's the deal. If your center isn't strong, if he isn't good like that, your offensive line, no matter what else you have at guard and tackle, it's not going to be good. It's never going to be great. And so let's get to it, because I think – when I look at this class, I think there's a bunch of guys that are sort of slotted together. And really, the center position, it probably starts this year, probably starts in the third round. But there's good depth there. There's really good depth. So let's start with Sam Hecht out of Kansas State. Look, he was a walk-on, in Manhattan, Kansas, and has started the last 2 years. But he tested very well. He started 25 straight games for the Wildcats. He at 6'4" and 303 pounds. He ran a 5.140. He ran a good 1.73 split. There's a lot of good tape. You think about the Dallas Cowboys starting center, Cooper Beebe. Where'd he come from? Came from Kansas State. The offense that they run, very run-oriented, but it is, you can evaluate the center there. It's not one of these spread offenses and they're throwing the ball all over the yard and you're not really blocking anybody. Sam Hecht is my number one center. The second guy, another guy, pretty easy to evaluate, Parker Brailsford from Alabama. He started his career at Washington. When Washington played for the national championship, like he was a starting center. Then he transferred in this transfer portal. He went to Alabama and started the next 2 years. He's an undersized guy. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He's about 6'2", 290, but he's very quick. He ran a 4.95 40. Very good time. Started 42 games. All right. He ran a 1-7 split. Like he's, you sit there and you're watching, you're watching their all-world left tackle, and you go, you can't help but look at, and you're looking at Ty Simpson, the quarterback, and you're doing all this evaluation, and you're like, oh, who's snapping the ball? Who's starting to play? And so, he's a pretty easy guy. He jumps off the screen pretty good because they're going up against a lot of good defensive tackles in the SEC. And I think that's why Parker went to Alabama. He went with the head coach. The head coach went down there, Kalen DeBoer, and he brought, and Parker went with him. Natural. It's just very natural. Like DeBoer leaves Washington. Parker's their starting center. They go all the way to the national championship game. And here he is going to Alabama to become the head coach. He brings Parker with him. Natural thing. The next guy is also from the SEC, and that's Jake Slaughter from Florida. He's got good size. He's 6'5". He's over 300 pounds. And I think Florida probably underachieved. They've had coaching changes there and all this, but they've got talent in Florida. You're in the state of Florida. You're going to get a lot of Florida kids. You're going to have the cream of the crop right there. But you go and you watch these games in Gainesville, like they beat Texas early in the season, and Texas became a really good team, but Florida played really well back then, early in the year. And Jake Slaughter, I thought, was a guy that sort of jumped off the page. The next guy went to my alma mater at Duke, and that's Brian Parker. And honestly, he was the right tackle at Duke. So if you're looking for him to go play center, he's not. He's the right tackle. He's played a little center, but he's the right tackle at Duke. They played their best 5 guys. He's got good size. He's 6'5". He's 309. He reminds me, he's not the athlete that Graham Barton was coming out of Duke. Graham Barton was the left tackle at Duke. He did play 6 games at center. But I feel like everybody feels like this is his position. He played this at the Senior Bowl, went inside at Senior Bowl. Everybody could take a look at him. Nobody thinks he's a starting right tackle in this business right now. But I do think that he has a chance to really transition well to center because of his size, because of his quickness, because of, not just because he went to Duke, but he is an intelligent guy, sharp guy. And so I think that's a guy that you have to look at. My next guy comes out of Iowa, Logan Jones. And he might not be the 5th best center in this business. He might be a day 3 pick. But I think he has a chance to start. Look, he's not quite 6'3". He's under 300 pounds, but he ran a 4.9 40. Like, he's very quick. He's got a great first step. And you watch him, you watch him at center, shotgun snap the ball at Iowa, and he's hooking 2 techniques over the guard. Like, he's got great first step. He can bring the hook block. He can get to the second level. And that's the thing. Like Logan Jones, he's probably smaller than I like, but so was Tyler Linderbaum. Tyler Linderbaum had a wrestling background. You could see it. He had a great 4 years, in Baltimore. Lamar Jackson was the MVP. Derrick Henry ran for 2,000 yards. Like, there's just a lot of things that happened because Linderbaum was at center. And Logan Jones kind of reminds you, I don't think he's the player that Linderbaum is, clearly, but there's a lot of traits that he has that transfers to the NFL level. And like I said, you can find centers anywhere. You can get them converted from another position. You can get free agents, like Sam Hecht was a walk-on, not even recruited that heavily, and ends up starting at Kansas State. You can get, I remember when Jason Kelsey came out of Cincinnati, and was more of a lacrosse player than a football player coming out of Cincinnati. But he ran very well. He was undersized, not quite 6'3", under 300 pounds, had to work his whole career to get up to 300 pounds. But he had a strong lower body and he could really run. And he was super smart, obviously. We all got to know Jason Kelsey. But I think Jason was either a 5th or 6th round pick coming out of Cincinnati. And that's kind of this draft. You can find these guys. You don't have to spend 1st round picks, and you're not going to get a 1st round pick. You might not get a 2nd round pick out of this class, but you're going to get starting centers, and I think there's going to be a run on them. And it's probably going to start somewhere, I believe, in the 3rd round. Day 2, somewhere in the middle of the 3rd round, some of these guys, Heck, Brailsford, Slaughter, Parker, you're going to see these guys start falling all the way down into the 4th and 5th round. So, anyways, that's my center board. Sometimes I group these with the guards, and I just do the interior. But I thought because I think it's a good class, I wanted to do them separate from the guards. And sometimes you just put this interior together. But I thought we'll talk about the guards because the guards are very good too. But I just wanted to kind of put the centers separate from the group because it's so important. It's such an important position. And I wanted to really highlight them because when you look at Jalen Sundell in Seattle, like he was the missing piece along with Gray Zabel, those 2 kids from North Dakota State, starting for a Super Bowl championship team. They had drafted Big Abe Lucas. They had drafted, their left tackle. But really the interior of that line really came together. And because there was a familiarity with Sundell and Zabel, like you could see that their communication was very, very good. And that's the key to the center is you are the communication center for your offensive line. And I really learned it and saw it, how important it was by playing it and I liked it. I liked being the communication center for your offense and your offensive line, setting the huddle, you go no huddle. You got to make sure the formation is correct. You got to make sure everybody's up on the line of scrimmage. There's just certain things that you just naturally do. I really enjoy doing that part, play to play. So anyways, that's my group right now. I could go deeper because there's still guys at 6, 7, and 8 on this group that probably could be on this list. And you might see them, taken in front of Logan Jones or Brian Parker. But this is my 5. I'm sticking with it. We'll be back next week as we really get deeper into the draft and start looking ahead to maybe draft fits for some teams and needs for some teams as we look ahead, because the draft is just 2 weeks away. As they say in Shakespeare, it is a fortnight away, 14 days away. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Look forward to talking to you next week and talking more draft as we start building up the momentum to that special night in Pittsburgh.